The thing that's scary to me is this, like, I've been thinking of it as like an unholy trinity when it comes to totalitarianism, global surveillance, and AI, and those things linking up, right? Because we already have Lockheed Martin spy satellites that could, globally map. They map infrared. They map the Earth with infrared, and they could basically play back Earth. Yep. We have totalitarians that want to destroy you and your ability to reach people by talking right now, and we have a former president going to jail possibly. We have one of the bigger voices in subversive media, Alex Jones, being attacked constantly, and countless people who don't have very big platforms who've been kicked off various social media platforms for the past 4 or 5 years. All those things coming together really is the thing that scares me.
You didn't even mention things like drones. Like, we have drones and face scanning technology. So we are very much approaching a world where we have to decide, where like we are going to have to stand up to our government, because they're going to try to impose some form, like it's inevitable the way government works here, unless we totally blow it all up, that there are going to be drones with face scanning technology that are going to go out looking for criminals. They're going to be scanning our faces in public, and then like zeroing in on someone. And there's no way to escape that kind of thing, like at all. And so the only way that we can escape that kind of thing is if we're all prepared for it, speak up for it, and have some sort of like citizen power to stop it. We have a lot of problems.
Dude, one of my most hated phrases when it comes to surveillance was people back in the day used to love saying, well, if you don't do anything wrong, what's the problem? I'm like, no. Like, well,
I gotta say, okay, so Chris and I, we recently watched Snowden. Okay, we just, oh my God, people need to rewatch this movie. Just only 11 years ago, and it's just like, how is this? How like that? Any of this is worse now?
I actually haven't seen it, but they talk about Pegasus from the NSO group. I'm sure you've probably gotten to that. Do you know about that?
They might not go that far, but yeah, Pegasus is.
But you know what? Even his wife or his girlfriend at the time, like she was like, "So what if they're watching me? Like I don't, like I'm not doing anything wrong."
Right.
And it's like, oh my God, this is crazy.
You are a frog in a pot of water, and the fire is turned on.
It's like it doesn't matter if you're doing anything wrong, because, like you said earlier, it's evil's fractured, right? And there's so many different goals for different evils. And when people say that phrase, I don't do anything wrong, what does it matter? That's not always about the goal. That's not the end game for a lot of this. A lot of it is like, we want to read your mind by understanding every part of your pattern in life, so then we can target you with all of our poison advertisements, and then basically control you. It's like MK Ultra on steroids through AI and global surveillance.
There's another layer to it too, where what's not wrong today might be wrong in 3 years. And like, just look at what happened during that one disease that happened, and suddenly we had all of like the world's most famous doctors that had been prescribing certain medicines that were extremely safe for years. Suddenly their whole careers are just destroyed because for years now they've been saying what is completely acceptable, and then the moment that a giant mega corporation has a certain product you stick in your arm that is going to make them billions of dollars, but is threatened by all these really cheap and amazing regular products, all of those products have to be villainized. And so you never know what is going to be wrong tomorrow that you have already been doing today, that they can come for you today for doing later.
Dude, exactly. It's why I've been when people want to ask me about the election or just the world in general, we're having conversations at parties or whatever, I'm like, I used to think I had a read on patterns when it came to these things, but we live in an absurd world, and possibly always have, and now only in the past 10 years am I really like tuning into it for various reasons, that you can't predict absurdity, So like you're saying, with the goalpost always moving, people in universities, people in government, people in power, they knew that the best dark magic would be to destroy language, so then they could always redefine things, and they could redefine your life. So you can get in trouble retroactively for saying something that was totally fine yesterday, and now you're villainized. And the mass surveillance will help usher in that social credit system, which is already, I'd say, here. And it's obviously in China, perhaps, if you saw videos from China during lockdowns, it was already in play, but it's here, and there's people in the UK taking down cameras for speeding. I think we did a show the other day with Tim, and MIA was our guest, and she said they called them Blade Runners, which I was like, that's cool. So and then people were like, well, they might say, I don't think it's that bad, after everything we might have said about Lockheed Martin, and it might sound a little far-fetched. And then I have to point them to, this is nothing unique. This has been going on for decades. Go look up Project Shamrock. Go look up Project Echelon. Go look up Project Minaret. These are ways that they have been surveilling you forever because they don't trust you, they don't like you, and they want to own you. And it's like, those things sound so far-fetched to some people, but then I pull up, you can go look at my favorite thing, the church committee, right? If people haven't watched that yet, it's kind of hard to find on YouTube now. It's funny because like a year or two ago, you could find the whole thing on YouTube, no problem. And now it's gone. But for those who haven't seen it, you should look it up. It's funny how that works. It's almost like they're getting ready to do something else. But
people don't realize, to reframe all that, like what people don't realize is that war used to happen between two nation states. Prior to World War II and the Cold War, war was between two nation states. But like World War II happened at a very specific time in the technological advancement of the world, where this was already kind of a thing before then. But after World War II, with television starting to be a thing, with media technologies expanding more and more into radio, television, et cetera, being that, and the nuclear option making it so that state on state kinetic conflict was not the primary mode anymore. It became the Cold War was all about subversion. But the point of subversion, the point of Cold War, which we still live in today, is absolutely. That you're targeting the citizens of the other country to subvert them. And that's the CIA's modus operandi from the start, is to take election to essentially rig elections in other countries to keep them from going red, right? But when you think about that, what that means is that every other organization, every other government is also targeting every other country's citizens to try to affect their politics and their culture. And what that means is that our own agencies, they're inherently their job to defend our nation is to stop us from getting propagandized by other countries. But the only way you can do that is to control what we think, because everyone else is trying to control what we think. So you have to control what we think better. Yes. And so we are the primary target of our own intelligence agencies in controlling narratives, because there's nothing more dangerous to a country than their own people starting to question the government, even for legitimate reasons. I've
been thinking about Snowden actually a lot lately, and Assange, and this idea of national security. And to me, it's like national security doesn't mean our security. It means the security of the power class to do maximum damage and make maximum profits. That's all they want. Because, when I think of inverted world and all this stuff, it's like these people in charge are creating a narrative they want you to buy into, so you can just go about your life while they go about all their diabolical deeds and all the various ways they do it, right? And war opens up the possibility for so much experimentation and profit and damage, and we're in it right now. I think we've been in nonstop war. I think my whole life. I'm 39, and it's just been. Although they said the Cold War ended, like you say, it didn't. We are in a war.
Into the war on terror.
Right, and that's it. We fight abstract wars constantly. And that's almost like the thing I'm saying about absurdism. You can't predict this, and there's no end to it. If you just make an abstract idea, it will go on forever.
Yep. Something you just said is really important that I think not enough people cue into, is that war makes great opportunity not just for profit, but for experimentation. And I think a lot of people don't realize that there's a lot of experimentation, like technological advancements, that you are literally you cannot morally do outside of a warfare context. And surveillance is a really good example of that, is that the military surveillance capabilities that war allows you to test, and in a sense, military strategists, people that work to defend a nation legitimately, their job is to advance our surveillance capabilities. But the only way you can do that is by practicing surveilling people, practicing the techniques, you need and another good example is biological warfare. World War II was full of both the Allies and the Axis powers experimenting with horrific biological weapons, horrific. As soon as World War II ended, they realized oh fuck, we're kind of not allowed to do that shit outside of wartime. So they went and recruited all the Nazi scientists that had done all of these biological tests for the Axis powers, and they brought them into our side. We've been doing the same tests. And they're like, okay, let's start some secret programs because we got to keep doing this. Yeah, it's always weird to me that after Operation Paperclip, when we hired all those Nazis, all those things those Nazis were doing, we started doing here. Interesting. Weird. Like the thing in San Francisco. Well, I mentioned one earlier they're doing right now with the clouds, but I think it was in the early 50s when they
sprayed the bacteria over San Francisco because they were like, we got to test how to keep people safe from bioweapons. So we're going to spray bioweapons secretly from our battleships into San Francisco, and we're just going to see who gets sick. And that's what we've been doing a lot of. And then, so you talk about war, World War II in particular. Unit 731 is something I always point to, where the Japanese were prisoners of war from China, and they were doing the most horrendous experiments on people. Vivisection, for those who don't know, is when you cut someone open while they're still alive. And there were people.
Well, it's kind of the scientific paradox, is that actually a huge amount of the most important science can only be done with living test subjects, living human test subjects. Because for a lot of science, you need to test the science on humans. And like, medical technology is the obvious example, but the problem is that like there is a moral line that you can't cross, and so therefore, in order to advance medical technology that would save lives, scientists have this inherent quandary of like, are we allowed to put people at risk or to harm people or to like torture and kill people in order to advance medical technology? And you can learn all about it from history of how this line has been crossed repeatedly, and how there are lots of scientists that justify crossing this line for, you know, the greater good. Today is no exception.
Do you know about the resurrection men? You ever hear that phrase?
No, I don't think so.
That was back in like the early 1800s and maybe to mid 1800s, when they were basically grave robbers, and they would go dig up the bodies and bring them to scientists and doctors so they could perform autopsies, so they could understand how a human body works. But it was obviously illegal. I want to say it was, I can never remember. There's a very famous person. Now I'm spacing on his name, but it's a guy who said the redcoats are coming, the British are coming. What was his name? His grandson was a resurrection man. Paul Revere's son, Paul Revere's grandson or son was a resurrection man. And it was a huge market. You know, they're like, please just go dig up those bodies. Obviously, ethically not sound, you know. But on the other hand, they learned a lot from doing it. And then the evolution of that.
A lot of the Operation Paperclip scientists that the U.S. was like so like the most the U.S. tried very hard to get certain demographics of Nazi scientists, and one of the groups of scientists that they were most interested in were the ones that had been doing medical experiments on prisoners, because they had been literally like they had been freezing prisoners to death to just learn how hypothermia works. But literally just freezing people to death to do it. And same with poisons and with like nerve gases. They've just been nerve gassing people one by one and just testing their bodies to see how it works. And the U.S. was super interested in those scientists specifically.
That's a lot of what was happening in Unit 731 as well in Japan. And when we found it, we gave them immunity for all the, you know. And then I've heard the argument, well, we want to know the information. I'm like, okay. But then I think we ended up doing it here. And I don't like that so much because, like I said earlier, Tuskegee was happening then. And in Guatemala, which is, I believe, probably worse than Tuskegee, just because we gave it to people. In Tuskegee, from what I understand, our scientists, the National Institute of Health or whatever, I think it was them, screened black men in Tuskegee and said, we will cure you of your syphilis, but then didn't do a thing and watched them die slowly or suffer slowly. And then watched generations of it happen. And in Guatemala, from my understanding, we gave it to certain people or sent prostitutes into areas with syphilis to give it to them. And that was a big moment for me. You know, you talk at the beginning of the show about how, you know, was there one event that opened you up? For me, one of the things was when Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State and she apologized publicly for the Guatemala events, which happened decades ago. I'm like, man, why is she apologizing for that? Like, that's weird. That's really weird. What do you mean they did that? That's crazy. You know, what are they doing now? You know, and then you talk about you made a point about, you know, war and experimentation. You know, the how much you know about Haiti? You know, have you done the rabbit hole of Haiti?
I've not done the rabbit hole on Haiti.
Oh, for real?
It's deep.
Oh,
it's
dude.
Super deep.
A quick rundown, because you love this stuff, and you would love. I mean, it's scary, but like. It really begins with Woodrow Wilson, and when he was president, he invaded Haiti because he thought it was a good naval base, and then we occupied it for 20 years. And basically, let's fast forward to the Clintons, because that's the good stuff. The Clintons honeymooned in Haiti, and they basically walked around saying, "Hey, I think we should destroy this place." And they're like, they like their lizard tongues got all happy and stuff, and you know, that's on video somewhere. I think if you watch their honeymoon tapes, you see their lizard tails wagging in Haiti. But when Bill Clinton became president, he destroyed their rice crops by making them take Arkansas rice, by destroying their rice crops, it destroyed their economy. And it became, so there's a whole lot of things. We don't have to get into the whole bit of it, but a system of destruction happening from the Clintons to Haiti. And the earthquake happened. The Clinton Foundation sent formaldehyde-filled mobile shelters, which made people sick, to the victims of the earthquake. Then Hillary Clinton interfered with their elections. The people of Haiti said they were all of a sudden seeing zombie votes. What is that? Like, why are these dead people voting? That's weird. I haven't heard that before. And then after the earthquake, Bill Clinton was like, I'm going to rebuild Haiti. What did he call it? His phrase was "build back better." I've heard that before too. So weird.
I mean, it's worth noting that those sorts of environments, like war-torn, destroyed, impoverished environments, are perfect for human trafficking, drug trafficking, arms trafficking, etc. And Haiti is famous for a lot of human trafficking, as is another certain organization we've just been talking about. And it's like in the perfect geographical place. And so destabilizing certain regions has a lot more benefits than people might at first realize, because the black markets are inherently connected to the light markets, and the people that are running the world are in both. Like, they're not just good guys.
I think these places become vessels for our derangement. The people who are in power, who are deranged, and they're like, what's practice here? It's kind of like a bigger Unit 731, right? It's a bigger battleship off the coast of San Francisco, where we can take advantage of this destabilized place and just run amok. And it's scary, because I think, I've done a lot of reporting on the ground in this country of the border of East Palestine, the train exploding. And it's, on one hand, my takeaway is it's a pandemic of incompetence. It's just post-COVID, we collapsed. Everything just fell apart. On the other hand, it's like, is it a controlled collapse? My gut says yes, and I think it's a lot of, so like on a bigger scale, it's like Haiti, but now it's in our country because a lot of the people in charge happen to be connected to the people who did it to Haiti.
So I mean, it's another good example of different motivations, where like, you don't need everyone to be necessarily motivated by some evil, cabal. You can just have a system filled with incompetent people and greedy people, and those are really easy people to manipulate, and they create all kinds of conditions that are ripe for, or ignorant people that are ripe for being, manipulated and sort of like pushed in big groups to the right ends that will help various very wealthy agendas move forward.
Man, well, we're gonna cut to callers now. It's a pleasure talking to you, dude. I think we could always do like 3 hours. At some point, we're gonna have you in studio so the gremlins, can get you in person. But please let the people know where they can find you. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I gotta say it again. I want to say it to you. It really does give me hope how many people tune in to watch you, like just read documents sometimes, and it shows me like people really do care. They understand that they are under attack all the time by fake realities, and there's people like you out there like breaking it down, saying, look, I'm not the ultimate truth here, but this is what I've got, and now you go do it. Like, that's very inspiring, dude. So thanks for doing that. Thank you for taking time to talk to us and our audience. We really appreciate it. So please let the people know where they can find you and all that good stuff.
My name is Ian Carroll, and on Twitter, that's my name. Cancel Cloco. Cancel This Clothing Company is like the short form media app. So TikTok and Instagram is Cancel This Clothing Company. And I have a website called cancelthisclothingcompany.com that has links to all my socials. And then I have YouTube and Rumble under Cancel This Conspiracy. If you go to cancelthisclothingcompany.com, it'll get you to all of that, plus like free resources about who owns all the brands in your grocery stores and stuff like that. So it's been a pleasure talking to you, Shane.
Dude,
guys.
Always great. Yeah,
Really
please check out Ian.
Thanks, Alex.
And we've done a show. We did the Culture War together, which was one of my favorite episodes, and we did a pop culture crisis episode, which was a lot of fun. So it's really good to have you back, and we'll do it again sometime, man. Have a great one.
See you next time, brother.
Thanks. Bye.